Thank you all for joining us. This is our inaugural NAIOP Gulf Coast Power Lunch. And for those of you not familiar, NAIOP is a national organization, commercial real estate professionals, 22,000 members strong, and we formed this Gulf Coast chapter just a few months ago. We are the 54th chapter, and we're off and running. Part of what we do is promote the interests of our members relative to industrial, logistics, office, and mixed-use commercial real estate within the region. Today, we've got a fun little panel for y'all. We have John here with Stirling is going to give a quick presentation on some recent office product brought to the market in Covington, and then Jennifer with JEDCO, and then Evan over at Lee and Associates. So, without further ado, I'll pass it on to my colleague here.
All right. Hey, everybody. Nice to meet you. For those of you who haven't met, I'm going to share my screen and we can get into the project. Let's see here. Let's see if I can go full screen. All right. So it's got a little bit of a lag.
Thank you. It's in construction.
That working? Oh, it's cutting off half the screen. That's what's going on.
It's strange. Here's
Let's try sharing another screen. How about that? Yeah. All right.
there you go.
So I'll start here. So background, Stirling has been headquartered in Covington for past 30 years or so, 35 years, but celebrating our 50th year as a company. And we've been located over on North Park off of 190. Our old office had 8-foot ceilings. We've been people hoarding in there for a long time. It was time for change. And so this project is over on the western side of Covington off of Highway 21 within the River Chase development. There's a Target anchored shopping center. We had built a first office building kind of cat-a-corner to this site maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And this was the second, I guess, iteration of the office portion of the multi-use development. So this kicked up about 2 years ago as an idea to joint venture between Kyle Kent and Kent Construction and Stirling to be sort of a joint headquarters. And so here are some initial views of the pad site, but it's a 50,000 square foot building, 2 stories, and we broke ground November of 2023. With the plan to be Kent as a co-owner, but also he would take the entire second floor for his company, and then Stirling would lease about half of the first floor. With at the time we would plan on leasing the remaining about 10,000 square feet. So we were able to obtain owner occupied financing through Red River Bank. That was a little bit more advantageous than a spec office development, and so we broke ground November of 23, and in December of 23, the site looked like the top left corner. Quickly moving to, we brought in the fill dirt, and then you can see these pictures on the bottom half are of the slab being poured and some of the framing going up on the bottom right. Let's see if I can keep scrolling. Here you'll see start of the framing going up, the exterior sheathing. We used a relatively cheap brick veneer and just painted it white. S.U. Dumez Ripple was our architect, and if I can get my other slides to come up in a minute, I'll show you kind of the iteration of what those look like. But you can see in the top right hand corner, we used a little bit of a mock-up wall, which was helpful to work out some of the brick soldering courses and some of the flashing details with the windows. One thing two things I think that are unique to this space. We used a geothermal air conditioning system, heating and cooling, which consisted of about 150 wells being drilled underneath the parking lot, which all basically go to this pump house that you can see if you're looking at the bottom right-hand corner picture. It looks like where the dumpster enclosure would be on the right-hand side of the building. There's also basically like a cooling tower and cooling station that all of the piping for the geothermal wells kind of flows through there. And so every individual well cools an individual unit within the office. And what it's basically done is instead of spending $4 a square foot on air conditioning costs, we'll probably spend closer to $2 or $2.25 annually. And so there was about a 25% increase in the hard cost for installing this system over a conventional, RTUs or some, typical system. But we also took advantage of some federal tax credits that basically you get 60% of the cost back in year one. So we spent about $3 million on the whole system, and we'll get 60% of that back in federal tax credits. So that was a big appeal for doing it. And the system works great. So we're happy with the way that turned out. The second thing that's interesting, this is a more completed picture, but above the center, this is on the Brewster Road side, you'll see kind of the more vertical window openings in the center of the building. On the second floor, that is an outdoor terrace. Instead of putting our amenity space on the building outside, like a typical, picnic area or kind of garden spot, we put it all on the second floor, enclosed. It's got open air, but it's got covering. So there's some seating, there's a grill, there's a mini bar, TV, and a place to kind of go enjoy your lunch. And even when it's hot in South Louisiana, you can turn the fans on and get some use out of it. These are some completed pictures. The terrace I was just mentioning is the top right-hand corner photo there. But on the left, you'll see Stirling's new entrance. We use a lot of glass. The ceilings are about 11 feet tall. So it's a major upgrade from our previous space. On the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see this boardroom with sort of the black light fixtures and the wood ceiling. That is a shared common boardroom for all the tenants of the building to be able to book and use. So that's kind of part of the amenity space. It's adjacent to that outdoor terrace. You can kind of see through the windows. And so the bottom right is Stirling's boardroom. But a lot of times, booking these spaces has been a problem for us in the past. And so having multiple options, I think it's a real value add and a little bit more of a modern way to design an office building. Lastly, here we have just a few pictures of more of the interior build out. We did sort of a timeline wall on the left-hand side, the 50 years of Stirling, as well as the break room kind of above, and then the lobby of the building kind of in the bottom right. See if I can pull up the other deal here.
John, while you're looking for that, the developer mindset, if you don't mind sharing the total project cost.
Yeah, so as part of this, I was just talking with Mac. So on one hand, there we go. On one hand, it was great partnering with a contractor. There was a lot of cost advantages and motivation from their standpoint, in the sense that they're also co-owners and invested in the building. And there's a totally different motivation to performing there and really being lean with your costs. The downside is, there's inevitably going to be change orders. There's inevitably going to be things that come up. The geothermal costs, there were some challenges with the way that it gets distributed to individual suites. So we had some cost changes, and I think the motivation there that we can't just change order the owner. You actually have to understand what your increased costs are going to do to your own return. So that was a big, that's a big challenge if you're going to be an owner developer and partnering financially with a contractor. You kind of have to weigh the pros and cons, which I ultimately think a lot of the pros, if it's the right partner, do outweigh the cons, but that can be a challenge to navigate. The total project costs were about 17.5 million, about $350 a foot. We originally went in hoping to be closer to 330, in the 16.7 range or so, but we had a few cost increases and we ended up at 17.5. But all things considered, I think it would be hard to build this size and quality of a building for $350 a foot without a contractor partner. I think if we had just hired a GC direct and gone through kind of typical channels, I think you could have added easily $25 a foot to this building. Yeah, this is just kind of breaking down why we moved over here. Way better area for the North Shore. Just better food options. It's closer to where people live. And you can see there's still a lot of green kind of right around that red dot. So hopefully this will lead to some more fun projects. Site plan, some more of these initial renderings.
John, at the end of a project, I like to look at what I'll call the wins and the learns. Is there one you could just give us a couple, maybe a win and a learn from this?
I think the win was that here's actually the plan for the geothermal wells. You can see all the dots in the parking lot. And here's a side view of how the piping system kind of works between the wells and the pump house. But I think the win was really this whole system. It was our first time installing a geothermal mechanical system in a building of this size. There's a little bit of a hope and a prayer that it would actually work the way it was supposed to work and we'd actually see some cost savings, but so far so good. And I think as long as you have, and Stirling really hasn't done we've done some historic tax credits, we've done maybe a handful of new markets, but we're really not a seasoned vet in the kind of tax credit space. And this is a little bit of a different use of a tax credit, but this was an example where as long as the federal government and the current tax policy provides for this credit, it makes all the sense in the world to consider the additional upfront costs. But this proved out to be a win. I'd say the learn from is office is really the closest thing to residential. We spend so much time in our offices. It's the finishes and the feeling of the space is really important to kind of the quality of life. And I think throughout the design process, I think if you're developing or owning this building, making sure that everyone on your team is kind of putting themselves in the end user seat of what's it going to feel like when you're actually sitting and working in this office and not losing sight of that being the priority. Yeah. I think there's some things that we would have maybe changed a little bit on the design side to make sure that that was going to be the best end user experience.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that, but we're all here 8 to 10 hours a day, plus or minus or whatever. It should be enjoyable time and space. Thank you. I want to keep moving, make sure we get to everybody. Jennifer with JEDCO now is going to tell us pass the signal over to you and going to give us some of the incentives that may be available or that are available in Jefferson Parish for sure, but maybe in your region as well, and about bringing properties back into commerce.
Most of that's true. Hi,
sorry, yes.
with JEDCO. I'm going to talk about the most commonly used SBA loan programs for commercial real estate. We do also assist with incentives. It's just not my area of expertise, but it's absolutely information that Janet can share with this group. So I want to make sure that we can see this. Do you see a bridge? Do we see a bridge or no? Okay, thank you. Thank you. So again, JEDCO, just for those who don't know, is the Jefferson Parish Economic Development Corporation. We're located in West Wego. We have 21 employees, and 4 of those are the lending team. So we facilitate several loan programs. Most of them are focused within the parish, within Jefferson Parish. However, our largest lending is done through an SBA loan program, which we facilitate statewide. So I just wanted to talk about SBA loans. It's not something that people are very familiar with. Both of these programs are underutilized in the state of Louisiana. And I think it's a big value add if you can be talking to your clients about these lending sources that are put into place by definition to assist those business owners that are unable to seek traditional lending. And that might be because they are a startup, or it could be even just because of the collateral is considered a higher risk. So I just want to go over, because you're going to hear these terms a lot, go over a 7A versus a 504. So 7As, they're facilitated by a 7A lender, shockingly. There's about 10 7A lenders that are headquartered in Louisiana, but there's about 50 lenders that will do 7A loans in Louisiana. So it's easy to find a lender. The maximum loan size is $5 million. It's a very flexible use. So you can use the 7A for basically any eligible working or eligible business use. Purchase equipment, working capital, certainly purchase real estate. But it's a bit more of an expensive loan than when you compare it to 504. It's usually a 3% loan cost. And typically the bank is going to use an adjustable rate, which is always uneasy for a borrower. Where the 504 is facilitated by a CDC. JEDCO is one of 3 CDCs located in Louisiana. Again, it's the same max loan amount, but there is no max on the project amount. So, we are working on projects that are 17, 18, $19 million. And its use versus the 7A is a bit more limited. So it's only for the purchase or renovation or refinance of commercial real estate. The loan cost is a bit less, and the rate on it is a below market fixed rate for the life of the loan. So again, we are an SBA 504 lender. And we facilitate this program statewide. Now, I do even go into Texas and Mississippi, any of the bordering states. I can go into those states and do the 504 loan with no big deal, but we're not going to go kind of cross country. Again, it's to buy or build, renovate, improve, refinance. If you're going to do any of those items with commercial real estate, owner-occupied commercial real estate, defined by 50% of square footage, then this is absolutely the best financing option. And what makes it more attractive and what it's often used for are those businesses or building types that banks find a bit scary to lend to. And they perceive these as higher risk loans. So gas stations, C-stores, hotels, even restaurants, daycares. These are all businesses that a bank will shy away from or will not be inclined to offer 85 or 80% LTV on. Again, you can see at the bottom of the screen there, it's not for investment property, and it's only for the use of purchase, renovation, or refinance of commercial real estate. And so this is how it works. We partner with a bank or a lender. They are going to take on 50% of the project. JEDCO via SBA will finance the 40%, and the borrower only has to come in with 10% equity, which is lower than most banks for traditional lending scenarios. We do add additional required equity for the borrower if it's a special purpose property or if it's a startup business. That means less than 2 years in business. And right now, the SBA portion of these projects that funded in February The 25-year fixed rate was 6.28, which is well below market rate, especially considering that it's fixed. Just a couple examples of projects that we've done using the 504. We did a ground up construction of the Atomic Burger in Baton Rouge and a renovation of a former bank branch in Prairieville for their third location. This was the purchase of a business, including the real estate of it, and it was a event venue in Westwego. Ground up construction of a dance studio here in Gretna. This was a purchase of, if you look to the, probably the left of your screen, where the Google Earth image, you'll see those two yellow squares. We used the 504 loan program to finance the purchase of those entire city blocks, including all the buildings on it and the vacant land for Mark's Food Distributors to expand their operations in Harvey. And this last one here was it's a historic property, and it was a pretty much complete gut to the dirt to create the Boyle Seafood House on Magazine Street. So those are all, most of those are would be considered somewhat higher risk properties. And they're just, we were able to offer better rates, less money down, using the 504. So it's just another tool for you to use to add value to the relationships that you have with your clients. And this is my contact information. Feel free to reach out, email, call. And that is it.
Awesome. Thank you, Jennifer. I see we just have a few minutes left. So I'll keep this rolling and pass it on to Evan, who is the head of our Government Affairs Committee, and is going to tell us a little bit about the legislative side, as NAIOP is big on advocacy and government programs.
Speak with them and see how they could partner with us. So that's really kind of the 5-minute spiel. I think I went 1 minute over, but any questions, I'd love to answer them for you, and be on the lookout for that survey. So.
Thank you, Evan. And just real quick, the point of the survey, I think, was to we're trying to really, with everyone's feedback, hone in on 2 or 3 things to attack at either the state or federal level, or maybe what goes down to the municipal. Is that right?
That's exactly right. Yeah. So again, our goal is to be, I guess, aim small, miss small. And so, I think the point of the survey is to get an idea from our membership and the key stakeholders, like where are the 2 to 3 areas that we could have the most impact, and what's the most important to focus on those, because again, it is very broad. And if we spread ourselves too thin, we probably limit our effectiveness. So yeah, we're gonna focus on a handful of issues and try to focus on those and do a really good job. And yeah, so that's the plan. You're right, Mac.
Oh, perfect. So just folks, when you do get that survey, please take a few minutes, and we try to keep it short and sweet. Please respond. All the input and feedback is helpful for sure. We are just a couple of minutes over, but before we go, I was gonna pass the mic, I guess, to Joel, who's he and Robert together are the chairs of our program.
Yeah, thanks for being here today. Anyone that knows me knows I'm a huge fan of the power lunch, and have been since before COVID, hoping to bring it back after COVID. So we want to keep this programming hybrid, but this is a regional organization. We want to keep it very regional. So I think the hybridity is important, but we're hoping to kind of expand on this 4-person power lunch today, and kind of have people host at different conference rooms, or maybe there's a bank that's interested, tech's office. So if you've got ideas, please reach out to me or Robert, and hope to have kind of a simulcast in Mobile. We want to keep these going on the 3rd Wednesday of even numbered months, so really easy to remember. Yeah, hopefully whoever is hosting can pitch in and provide some lunch. big ideas happen during power lunch. So, you know, once this 30-minute presentation is over, you know, then it's time for the kind of meeting after the meeting to begin. Great brainstorms. And we kind of want to keep this format too. So if you're interested in presenting, you know, one of your recent projects in like a 5 to 7 minute spiel, also please reach out, and we want to keep Evan and our governmental affairs committee kind of bring us home at the end, so we can stay on top of these legislative and regulatory issues. That is a differentiator for NAIOP and something that we're very excited about.
Sure, that's great. Okay, thank you everyone for tuning in, and we're on the backside of the hump. So enjoy the rest of the week.
Yeah.
See you.
Thanks.